Watch this.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. So follow the smoke.
But can you follow it onto property that doesn't belong to you? Following a flurry of fires last year, there's a push at the State House that would give Idaho jurisdiction over those burning on federal land. The catch? It would take a judge to cover the costs. While the legislature is trying to keep the federal government in check, this week is all about keeping local government in check through transparency. We're going to shine a light on Sunshine Week. We know our Idaho farmers love the sunshine, but there isn't much that lights up the Capitol Rotunda more than Ag Day. Well, it burned for more than 3 months and scorched nearly 130,000 acres. And Idaho lawmakers believe the extensive damage of the Gem State's largest fire of 2024 could have been prevented or at least minimalized. The Wapiti fire sparked by lightning in late July and burned mostly on federal lands around Stanley. And the time it took for federal firefighters to come in and fight it, well, allowed it to spread rapidly, they say. But what if Idaho firefighters could have jumped in sooner without having to wait for permission from the Bureau of Land Management? So who would pay for fighting that fire is the question, though. There's a bill at the State House that lays it all out. And here's Aspen Shumpert to explain it.
Every summer, we're burning more and more acres, and it's a devastation that we just cannot live with.
Following a wildfire season Idaho's governor says was the worst in decades, lawmakers advanced a bill expanding state authority to fight fires on federal lands, which make up about 61% of Idaho's total land area.
When there is a lightning strike in one tree, instead of sitting around for 5 or 6 days until the fire grows and grows and grows before they go to put it out, we can just send IDL out to put the fire out while it's still burning the one tree.
The bill allows for Idaho to intervene on federal lands where a fire is burning out of control or without adequate precautions.
If it affects the health, safety, and lives of our citizens, then it's within our power to do something. So that's what we are using here. The governor would be able to, if he wants, it says may, the governor could declare an emergency and order state resources to go put out a fire before it becomes catastrophic.
For Dar Moon, a geological engineer in Stanley, he thinks this would have prevented the spread of the Wapiti fire.
My son and I were traveling from Stanley, where we live, to Boise on July 24th when the Wapiti fire started. And there was just a little smoke. The Forest Service had closed off the access road to Grand Jean there. We were in Boise for about a week and came back and nothing, same deal. There were a few Forest Service trucks. Smoke was still coming, but nothing was done about it. And unfortunately, just a few weeks later, it blew up into a catastrophe.
The cattle associations and local loggers are behind the idea too. And the Idaho Farm Bureau says it's about more than just the forest.
The Department of Ag provided some pretty graphic photos that we were able to acquire of cattle that had been burned up in those fires. And it really is an issue of animal welfare when it comes to not only wildlife, but livestock that are on these public grounds.
According to the bill, the Attorney General must prosecute these cases to recover the local funds used to fight the wildfires. But that's not a guaranteed reimbursement.
How successful do you think we'll be?
Representative Boyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, I would hope with this new administration that we would be quite successful, that they would agree to pay.
The law would be active as soon as the governor signs it rather than waiting until July 1st, the usual effective date for new Idaho laws. This is now heading to the House floor for further debate.
Okay, so Zito said that with this administration, they hope it would be...
Boyle.
Excuse me.
Yes.
No. Yes, sorry. Judy Boyle said that with this administration, she was hoped that reimbursement would be forthcoming, but
right.
This administration is not going to last forever.
Yeah, it's a gamble. What happens after this administration, right. You don't know. And that was a discussion that was brought up. Some had concerns about that. I guess we'll have to see what the full floor has to say about it.
Man, you would think there would be some sort of arrangement then that it wouldn't always have to go to a lawsuit.
Right.
Costing the Idaho taxpayers more money
yeah.
to recoup some of those losses. All right, thank you very much, Aspen. Well, We might as well start calling Idaho Little Texas, because this push for putting religion in public schools really kickstarted back in 2021 with the Lone Star State adopting a national motto bill. It required the phrase, "In God We Trust," to be displayed in public schools in a conspicuous place, but only if that poster or sign is donated or bought by private donations. Sound familiar? Well, in the famous words of the band Little Texas, God bless Texas, because it was just 2 years later Idaho did the exact same thing, like word for word. Then in 2023, Texas became the first state to allow chaplains in schools. It gave school districts the ability to employ or use them as volunteers, however they see fit. They could even replace trained guidance counselors. While it did require background checks, Texas's law made no educational or accreditation requirements for these chaplains. The National School Chaplain Association, which there is such a thing, says it was instrumental in leading the charge in that Texas law, called it successfully starting a national movement placing God back in public education. Well, right on schedule, 2 years later, Idaho lawmakers have the very same bill in front of them. Today, just 4 days after it was introduced, House Bill 410 had its first public hearing. The bill's sponsor, Representative Dale Hawkins, who has more than a handful of public school-related bills floating around the State House. Representative Hawkins referred to the bill as the epitome of local control.
That's what this does. It affords the opportunity. It doesn't force any district to do this. It affords the opportunity for them to take advantage of this within our structure for their local communities.
Just like the Texas law. And about that local control, the deputy director of the Idaho School Board Association was there today, and she pointed out the state legislature kind of took that control away from local school boards back in 2021.
For example, there is a law that is adopted by this legislature that ensures that there is not like an inferior or superior religion. And that's why I think you're putting school boards in positions where we're having to pick and choose what religion we want emphasized by a chaplain in our school building that are serving our students.
And she's right. The Dignity and Non-Discrimination in Public Education Act, the same law the West Ada School District has used to say an "everyone is welcome here" sign violates school policy. Well, it says no public school shall compel any student to affirm any sex, race, ethnicity, religion, color, or national origin is inherently superior or inferior. It's right there in Idaho code. So in case you're wondering, could that chaplain come from any religious sect? Well, the founder of Satanic Idaho was there to answer that question.
Many fellow Satanists and I are eager to introduce satanic values into schools, serving as chaplains throughout Idaho. These values include empathy, compassion, respect, justice, plurality, and equality, principles that we believe will provide essential life skills and pure mentorship for Idaho students.
Well, Hans, who is an ordained minister, he said he is excited about collaborating with other faith leaders in the community to enrich the lives of children. Because, as he says, bringing together diverse backgrounds benefits all involved. You may also be wondering about the separation of church and state. Well, as brought up by Representative Hawkins, the shift in our country's judiciary has caused kind of a shift in that separation, and why we are seeing so many bills that want to bring religion to Idaho's public schools. Remember that U.S. Supreme Court ruling that said it was okay for a Washington football coach to lead post-game prayers? Well, that was Kennedy versus Bremerton School District, and the court protected the coach's right to gather the team and pray on the 50-yard line. That was back in 2022, and it kind of opened the doors for conservative lawmakers across the country to bring up a bunch of religious bills. And here in Idaho, they've done the same thing. We've already talked about the "In God We Trust" motto being put in public schools in 2023. But that same year, Governor Brad Little signed into law allowing public school employees to silently pray, should they so choose. Then this year, we've seen a rash of these types of bills. There's the attempt to require Bible passages be read in school so that over a period of 10 years, students would get through the entire King James Bible. There's another to require the 10 Commandments be displayed in public school buildings. Both of those have yet to make it out of the House Education Committee. But finally, the chaplain bill, which passed out of the House Education Committee today and was sent to the full House with a do-pass recommendation. This is something that was tried by 14 other states last year, and it might be worth noting, after Texas passed its chaplain law, they set a 2024 deadline to implement it. Texas has more than 1,200 school districts across the state, and only three small districts opted into this. but you can kind of sense a theme here. After the legislature, and the governor agreed to allow public money to pay for private religious school education in Idaho, I guess the question is, what's the point of trying to turn Idaho public schools now religious? All right, if sunlight is best, or supposed to be the best disinfectant when it comes to transparency in government, then shining a light on anything that is happening with our elected leaders would be a good thing. The concept, spawned by a quote by a Supreme Court justice more than a century ago, created a movement exactly 20 years ago, and they call it Sunshine Week. But what does it mean? Well, Joe Paris got that answer from Idaho's elected officials in charge of public records and vital government information.
There are laws that prevent the government from hiding public records, but that doesn't mean that they have to make it easy to access. Kind of like a lie by omission. The government can stay within the rules while keeping certain things hidden basically behind a wall. Leaders in Idaho are working to turn the tide on transparency.
We are data nerds. Controller Wolf and I, we can both enjoy a really good spreadsheet. That's right. That's not true for most Idahoans.
Secretary of State Phil McGrain and State Controller Brandon Wolf oversee mountains of data. They need to make that available to the public by law, but have gone beyond sending out long pages of data. They go visual through websites like the Controller's Transparent Idaho site.
There's over 800 plus local taxing districts, and to have all of their information, to have the revenue, budget, expenditure, we're super excited to bring that all together and have that in one place to let the citizens be able to track and identify that.
The Secretary of State's team does that too through their Sunshine portal, as well as campaign finance and election data. They pride themselves on easy-to-understand data.
You have a right to know what your government's up to. You have a right to know whether the documents are doing, the money that they're spending, in our case, the money that's being spent to influence your government. All of that is important in order for us to govern ourselves.
This week marks Sunshine Week, a time to highlight government openness and put pressure on public officials to help the public see the whole picture.
I think we are leading the way across the nation in terms of access to information.
That information has valuable stories deep within it. For example,
if you're watching issues going on in the State House and you wonder, why are they doing that? What's happening? Well, it's probably good to follow the money and see what's going on. So we've really made an extended effort to make that translatable to people.
Obscurity is the best friend of conspiracy. And so when you sit there and say, what's government hiding? There's something going on. And that whole changing that culture, that mindset to say, we're open.
Changing the culture is a real thing. There is certainly resistance to new ideas and ways of handling data, records, and information.
Remember there was one agency when we were going live with Transparent Idaho, and they really struggled. They're like, we want to hold on to it. We don't want to let it go. We want them to come ask, and we're going to hold on. We're going to wait all the days it takes for the public information request, and then we'll finally give it to them, or maybe. We're trying to just change that culture and mindset of that openness and let that spread and go.
And heck, one of the bills that's going through on our campaign finance bill in terms of adding new transparency and increasing it, we've heard from some of the politicos who've said, no, you guys will do too good of a job with this. We're not, we'd be okay with it, but you'll do too good of a job. And that's how it should be. That's what our role is to make this easy for the public.
So the question is, where do you go from here? And something that we talked about with the Controller and the Secretary of State, Brian, is new abilities through technology. For example, with AI, instead of going through the website right now and, trying to go through dashboards and visualizations, which are better than printed pieces of paper, there could be a future where an AI assistant could actually just answer your question, where you say, I'm looking to see how much the state of Idaho spent on pizza. That is something they track, by the way. So,
can it tell me where all the dark money is?
That is a great question. We'll have to get some more spotlights for that. But yes, ostensibly, yes. If you don't know where to look and an AI could help you, then yeah, I think it could.
All right. Thanks, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
Everything's in the proclamation.
Everything? Like everything. Well, that proclamation, the one he's referring to, stood tall in the Idaho Capitol Rotunda today. Declares March 18th officially recognized as Idaho Agricultural Day. Honors the hardworking farmers, ranchers, and ag communities who play a vital role, of course, in shaping Idaho's economy and our culture. Okay, so Hunter Funk was down there at the Capitol today, spoke to the governor along with several other commodity groups to hear about the significance of this day. So what is the significance of this day, Hunter?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll tell you.
Okay, good.
All right, well, there were more than...
Tell me about everything that's in that proclamation.
Yeah, I'm going to try my best. All right, there were more than 15 different commodity groups that were there. They each had a booth showcasing the importance of farming in the state. The event and the day is all about giving the public and legislators the opportunity to learn more about Idaho agriculture and the significance it has in our state.
We're here in Boise, the most populous area. We're here when the legislature's here in town, but so much of what happens in the state is really dependent upon agriculture. So many people that move here because they like the landscape, they like the cattle and sheep, and they like the farm ground, and they like the orchards. And that's why events like this are so important for people that don't have a direct connection to agriculture to understand the magnitude, how important it is for so many parts of the state.
From honey and mint to beef and dairy, agriculture contributes to more than $10.8 billion to the Idaho economy. Other fast facts for you: Idaho feeds the world. Nearly 90% of Idaho exporters are small businesses. And 1 in 4 rows of barley and 1 in 5 rows of Idaho potatoes are exported, and Idaho's exports seed to more than 120 countries worldwide. It's easy to say Idaho agriculture has a big impact, not just to the local economy, but across the globe. Now, coming up at 6, we talked with several of those commodity groups about the importance of the day and what they hope people will learn from it.
Okay, and they do this every year, right? This is not just a one-off kind of thing.
Yeah, they always find the day, but
yeah,
it landed perfect. Inside Ag Tuesday. I mean, I think they knew.
I guess that's why the proclamation had to be so big, because everything is in it.
You had to see it.
All right, thanks. We'll be right back. Several bills are still sliding through the State House while a piece of Highway 95 is sliding off into the Weezer River. Abby Davis tells us more in today's 411.
And we're going to get this highway back open as safely and quickly as possible.
A section of Highway 95 between Council and New Meadows closed Sunday after part of the road fell apart during a storm. Idaho Transportation Department crews think they can get one lane of the highway open for non-commercial traffic by the end of the week. The rest of the highway could take weeks to fully reopen. That section is a lifeline for Adams and Washington counties, but for now, ITD says people should take Highway 55 instead. Back to the legislature. Yesterday, a $100 million property tax relief bill went to Governor Brad Little's desk. If this becomes law, homeowners could see a 9% decrease in their taxes. There is more than $400 million in tax relief passed this session through multiple bills. This afternoon, Superintendent of Public Instruction Debbie Critchfield's school funding formula bill just narrowly passed the Senate. The amended Senate Bill 1096 changes how discretionary funding is distributed to public schools. With this bill, the money would follow the student and be weighed based on students' needs. Now the bill is headed to the House. More good news for public schools. Governor Little signed a bill appropriating $5 million in funding to support literacy. Little says the appropriation follows his Keeping Promises plan for public education. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Abby Davis.
All right, on the weather front, those winds have been howling today. Look at the current wind gusts. These were clocked in just the last several minutes, still up near 50 miles per hour in Twin Falls. There has been a 58 mile per hour gust earlier today in Twin. Not quite as blustery for the rest of the Treasure Valley, but still a wind advisory stays in effect for Boise eastward into the Magic Valley through 9 o'clock tonight, as those winds will diminish after sunset, but a couple more hours still of those howling winds. It is chilly out there. We're only in the 40s for most of the Snake Plain, upper 30s for our mountain locations. Blue sky overhead, which is nice, but with the wind, the cool temperatures, a little hard to enjoy the sunshine, but those peaks of sun are fueling some convective showers over the region today. Some very light mountain snow flurries, some rain showers, and even some graupel showers across the lower elevation. So skies stay clear overnight. We will be cold tonight, though. As the winds die down, skies remain clear. We'll drop into the mid-20s across the Boise area tomorrow morning. So another day where you have to scrape the windshield if you park outside. We stay a little unsettled off and on through Saturday. We kick off spring on Thursday. And hey, it'll feel spring-like next week. Your eyes don't deceive you. By next Tuesday, we're looking at highs in the 70s in Boise for the first time this year.
All right, let's get to your comments today on this Tuesday. This one about the Ag proclamation today at the State House. Brad wants to know, just wondering if the Ag proclamation with everything in it addressed the migrant workers that make it all possible. Just curious question. I'm going to guess probably not. Brad did not address that in a proclamation. God has no business in our public schools. Learn your religion, morals, etc. at home. Parents, do your jobs, says Larry. Meanwhile, Tom says, yeah, I believe God would have said everyone is welcome here. That's probably pretty true. Yep, that's true. Brian, did you say Little California when you tried to ram ranked choice voting down Idaho voters' throat? That's Cliff and Boise. Well, I don't remember the last time we were ramming ranked choice voting down your throat, but it's not a California thing either. Only 6 cities in California have ranked choice voting, so that's really not a thing, Cliff. Since the Idaho legislature wants to follow Texas, perhaps they should meet every other year, like Texas does. That would save a lot of money, says PJ, and he's right. They do meet only every other year. Good luck with that, though. They're still in session. Who knows how much longer? We'll see you tomorrow.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.